the stranger on your screen to your right, he's back. We'll get to her in just a minute. I'm Buddy Martin. It is the Buddy Martin Show. Not nearly as big as what she does, but we're out there piddling around, get a few good guests like Allie every now and then. You recognize Allie Peek Wilbur. Tonight we're going to talk about some sort of different views of the Florida Gators. People we've talked to, I've talked to, Allie's talked to, some things that are rumbling, and maybe a little bit of positivity. Wouldn't that be something? So stand by. The Buddy Martin Show is on there. Edgar Thompson joins us, and David Moulton is back. Gosh, sweet and sour, back again. I can't believe it. Stand by. They're coming up next right here on the Buddy Martin Show tonight.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
The best open in all of television and streaming, according to some of our fans and our listeners. And thank you to Brendan Martin for that production. Now 4 years old. It's so good to be back with Allie Peek Wilbur. She's been off vacation, going around the mountains, having a good old time. Allie, how are you? I'm sure it went well.
I'm doing well. Yes, it's my favorite place. We got to go every single summer. It's really cool to see the kids kind of in their element. You know, they love swimming in waterfalls. They love hiking. They love, tubing in the lake. All the outdoor things are kind of their jam. So it's fun to be able to do that.
That's what they know. I was telling my wife, Dawn, who has a house up in Waynesville, that all her grandchildren have been going to for 20 years. They think that's the norm.
Right. Right.
Mountains, like the house is supposed to be there, And of course, we started going to Maggie Valley when I was starting out in this business, my sister and I, and you've been to Highlands many times. And
yeah.
So it's always a good thing to do this time of year to go up to North Carolina. Beautiful state, beautiful place. Glad to be back here because we got stuff to talk about tonight.
We do.
Allie, let me ask you a hard question. I've thought about this long and hard before I said it. I'm sure we'll get some blowback from it. Is there something in the wind that's favoring the Florida Gators? I smell something. I hear things being said that I'm not accustomed to hearing.
Yeah.
I don't have my head in the clouds here. I'm just talking about things I'm saying and things other people are saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're, picking to win the national championship. There have been some conversations from other people about that. And actually, Florida has been in some of those conversations. Now, I don't mean as a favorite. So before we get too far over our skis here, lots of good things being said inside and outside the program. And Urban Meyer told me the other day, I said, the glory days of Florida football are gone forever. You and Spurrier did it all. I don't think we'll ever see them. So I don't agree with you. So I think that we could see them again. So I don't know. That kind of surprised me. It's so much harder today to do what they did all those years ago. Tell me, I know you're a very positive person, but you also have been known to do a little tongue lashing to people when they don't get it right. Where's your head right now on this football team?
So I think, every offseason we hear from coaches about how much improved the team is, how hard everybody's working, how bought in everybody is. And I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to that because I don't really know what a coach is supposed to say outside of that, right? Like they're not supposed to say, yeah, we're terrible. We don't have any good leadership. Nobody is congealing at all. Like it's just a train wreck in there. So essentially I pretty much disregard whatever any of the coaches are saying out there about it. I feel the same way about big money boosters who stand on the sidelines and then will text all of us and say like, oh my gosh, it's the second coming. They're all incredible. This is going to be such a huge season because 1, I'm not 100% sure if they know what they're looking for. 2, I think they buy a lot of what the coaches are saying and the hype that comes from them. But I'll tell you who I believe, and that is former players that go to watch. And I've heard a lot of positivity from former players. And the difference is they know what they're looking at, right? They know they cut through all the BS. They don't care about any of the rah-rah stuff. They know what they see with their eyes. And I had Chris Doering on my show. There's a couple videos running from yesterday and today. And he is super positive about it. And I know, buddy, you know Chris, and you've had him on your show. He was not super positive last year.
No, he wasn't.
His over-under last year, he thought Florida was going to win 5 games last year. So when he tells me that they're going to win 7 or 8 and have the potential to steal a 9th, I'm listening to that. That moves the needle for me. The other stuff really doesn't move the needle for me. But a guy that has gone, he went multiple days in a row to practice, watched this from the sidelines, and is really impressed by what he saw, that registers for me.
Well, I'm with you on that. But here's the thing. When you're sitting up there in Highlands, North Carolina, and you're having your second cup of coffee on a Friday morning and thinking about what you're going to be doing soon, returning to the scene of the crime,
Right.
you've been around Florida football a long time.
Yeah.
Seen bad, you've seen good.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen fire, I've seen rain, James Taylor. And so you have a sense, what I like about you is you also have a gut sense about it. And you do reveal some of that sometimes. I'm kind of the same way. I don't know why. It's palpable, but sometimes I just get that feeling.
Yeah.
I swear this is a true story. I know no one will believe it. I was walking out of my house one year for the Florida State game in Tallahassee. And my wife said to me, what do you think is going to happen? I said, I don't know. I don't have a feeling for this. I don't have a feeling for it. I just don't know what. It might be a tie. Guess what happened?
Oh, we all got ties for Christmas.
31. I can't believe I said that. I mean, not that I'm not some oracle, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, I tend to go with my feelings and what I see and hear. The things I'm hearing when I hear Chris Doering, and I had him on butts last year, he didn't move off that dime.
No, he
Just
didn't.
a very good football team. I don't see him winning that many games, and that's the way it is, and whatever. But now he's saying things to you. Well, tell what he said to you in your interview. I just listened to it.
Well, he said he thinks 7 to 8 games. Like I said, he said there's a possibility for the 9th, he thinks, but he thinks Florida is going to go undefeated in the state, which that's huge. Honestly, you only win 3 games if you go undefeated in the state. Guess who's coming back next year? And it's Billy Napier. So I thought that was incredibly positive. He really has a lot of positive things to say about Graham Mertz. He thinks that he is a leader. He said that we have not seen all that he is capable of. He's been incredibly impressed. He's really impressed with the wide receiver core too, which is also interesting because obviously that's Chris's bag, right? And he played with some really good talent at Florida. So the fact that he is super excited about that room moves the needle for me too. I value what Chris says, same way we value what Shane Matthews says. Like, I know I told you this last year, but I had all these boosters all last offseason texting me, telling me, we're going to be so good. We're going to be so good. Our offensive line is so great, or this or that. And we went up to a former player event right before the season started. And Eric was there. Billy Latsko was there. Several guys that played on that 06 team. And all of them are looking at each other going, we're going to win 5 games. We're not good. We're going to get pushed around. Our strength and conditioning's terrible. We're not going to be good. And I was like, no, guys, we're going to be great. All the people that have watched practice are telling me they're going to be great. And they were like, Allie, this team is not going to, they're not physical. They're not going to perform well. This is not good. So, and then that's exactly what played out. So when some of these same people are saying they see a huge difference, I tend to buy into that.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't quantify exactly what it means. I think I know.
Yeah.
But I hear them throw out some of these stats and things. When they say we lost 500 pounds of body fat and we gained 500 pounds of muscle.
It's crazy.
I don't know. That sounds horrible.
The only negative I can say to that is it's frustrating that it took 2 years for us to realize that, right?
Yeah.
And it's frustrating that Napier, coming from Alabama before, didn't realize that the strength and conditioning program he initially had put in place wasn't good enough.
So
But
what you're saying was he didn't know what big boy football took.
yeah, but he's seen big boy football. So that's why it's frustrating. He should have known. But he gets credit for pivoting, right? He was able to move on from somebody who has been with him from previous stops, who he believes in and he likes. And he moved on and brought in a strength and conditioning coach who is getting results. The fact that we've lost 500 pounds and, gained whatever else in muscle is impressive. The fact that they're pushing each other around out there, they've got that mean streak, is what we need to win ball games in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And so I don't know about I don't know, Billy. I mean, I don't. We tend to want to psychoanalyze our coach, but I will say his first press conference, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any preconceived notions, but I like the fact that he dealt with some issues that we all knew were there. He addressed some of those. He didn't overstay. He didn't complain about the schedule, which would be easy to do. He didn't fall in that trap. He was positive, but not outrageous, and he said some things that made sense. So I'll give him a A- on that and say, okay, that sounds pretty good. Now we don't know till we see him on the field. But you mentioned the receivers. Shane Matthews told me the other day the starting receivers will be Trey Wilson, DK, and Elijah Badger. That's his opinion. I thought, what? Wow. That's two good pickups there if that's the case. Now, how bad do you think the Montrell Johnson injury is going to be for Florida?
So I don't think it's as bad as some people think that it will be. First of all, a meniscus isn't awful, right? What I heard behind closed doors is 6 weeks, they're thinking. So, maybe we get him back by Texas A&M. I think Florida's running back room is really deep. I think where the question comes into play is, can they block as well as he can? Because Montrell Johnson is great at blocking. And can our offensive line do a great job? Because if our offensive line isn't going to be improved from last year, I don't know that it matters who is running the ball. If the offensive line is a lot more improved, I think that room is deep enough that we're going to have success even without Montrell Johnson. I've heard great things about Baugh. Really that room in itself is really good. So I don't think that it's massively detrimental. I don't think it changes a win into a loss. I want him better. I think Florida will be better when he's on the field, but I'm not concerned that costs us a game.
All right. So the smart money says he'll be back by Miami because he didn't have a scope.
Right.
And what the medical people I've talked to
had a scope on his knee when over the summer A before the national championship year, and he punted a week later with that.
Some guys, Shane said he played 2 days later. Whatever. Yeah. That depends on Dr. Pete Delicato, the former, said it just depends upon if they had to stitch it or cut a piece of it, whatever. Yeah. And I don't know about all that medical stuff, but that's one. But secondly, I really like Jaden Baugh. Maybe I got reading. I don't know if he can pick up a blitz or not. And Shane was staggered when I told him how big he was. Shane was willing to bet me he wasn't that big. I said, Shane, he's almost 230. He said, no way. I said, he's 6 feet. No ways. Yeah. I said, well, Shane, look at the program. Well, this ain't right. He's pretty good. And not only that, I like he's got a sense of where he has a nose for the hole of the football. He has vision.
Yeah.
I don't make him sound like Emmitt Smith here. I'm just saying he's quick for a big guy. Mm-hmm. I just think, and I don't know if he catches the ball well, but now I know they have other guys ahead of him naturally, and they should.
Sure.
The guys are taking shots. I don't even know Katie Daniels gets a lot of run too. He's supposedly a very, very fast guy. We saw him a little bit. And so we know what's going to end. Webb, of course, is going to get the first round. He's going to get the first look. Right.
He's going to
get your sense of those backs there, which ones you like. And I argued that I think Trayon Webb's a nice back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he could be a featured back. And someone says, well, Billy doesn't feature backs. Well, you're going to have your guy, at some point. So
it's going to be whoever blocks the best, I think, which that, kind of the issue with ETN, right? He was a great runner, not that great at blocking, and that sometimes costs you reps. I hope that Webb has, a great season. I think it would be awesome. He's got the most experience there, so hopefully that'll be the case. Baugh is awesome. Caden Daniels is going to be really, really good too. He was the Mr. Football for Mississippi. There's a lot of young green, okay, really good talent in that running back room. So, it's going to be exciting to watch, but I think Webb is the guy to go with.
Yeah. Let me switch subjects for a second. I don't know whether Edgar Thompson got tied up or not. He's supposed to be joining us, but if not, it's okay. David Ball's going to be along soon. I know. Have you watched much of the Olympics?
I have. I've watched tons of the Olympics.
Okay.
I love the Olympics.
Yeah. I've been transfixed to the TV screen most every day.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a good story. And these women are amazing. I mean, it's amazing American athletes. I mean, just blow me away, especially the track people. So it's been a good day for the Olympians and some of the races I've seen in the last 48 hours. And America's leading in gold and they're leading in silver now over China. So that's good. So
yeah,
I love it. I'm getting. Let's see who we got here popping in. Might be. There is Edgar right there. And let's do this. Let me tell you right now, this program is being brought to you by Meldon Law. Meldon Law, here to serve you and your legal needs. New offices located in Williston, offices in Gainesville, Ocala, and Lake City. Check them out if you need legal help or if you have a lawsuit pending and you're not happy with the results you're getting. Do like you do in a medical situation, get a second opinion. Call Meldon and talk to Jeffrey or one of the guys down there. They'll take care of you. They, of course, are the only official injury law firm with the University of Florida. Meldon Law, they won't back down. And neither will this guy right here, who has not done the show in a long time. Welcome back, Edgar.
Hey, guys. Sorry I'm late.
Well, I'm just glad you're here, Edgar.
Yeah, good to see you guys. So what I miss?
Well, we were trying to assess the running back situation. We don't know it like you do, but we just talk about. I really like Jaden Baugh. I know that Tran Webb's going to get the start if Montrell's not there, which I think he will be. It's my opinion and what people are telling me. And I want to see more KD Daniels. Size up the running back room for us, Edgar.
I think Jacoby Jackson is another guy who apparently has been fairly intriguing. Which surprised me when they gave him the scholarship. I was like, why are they giving it's nice. He's a Pensacola kid. It seemed like a nice thing to do, but it didn't seem very practical. And it sounds like he's actually flashing. But have you heard that?
I have heard that, yes.
Yeah, that he seems like he's doing something. And look, all hands on deck right now. Montrell Johnson, they need him to come back fully healthy.
Yeah.
They need him for Miami, but I'm telling you, man, I remember Shamar James last year dinged his knee early. I didn't think was really ever the player I was expecting last year, though at SEC Media Days, I asked him specifically if he was healthy or if he was injured all year, and he said he wasn't, but he shut it down after 8 games, and it was noticeable when he was out. And you really just want Montrell to be able to play the breadth of most of the season in one game. I mean, it's a huge game, but rushing him back would be you could do without him against Sanford, too. You could really bring him back against A&M and have him fully healthy.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that I just don't know the extent of the injury. He was on the field yesterday watching, right? And he was no brace or anything. I mean, you could see a bandage on his knee. I mean, a very light, like big Band-Aid, basically. I mean, he had a scope. But those, for a position like that where you're going to be cutting and things like that, it's a little harder to come back from than most positions.
Yeah. I was telling Allie I had a conversation with Dr. Peter Delicato, who, of course, is not involved with what he said, told me about these scopes. And as Allie said, her husband had one and was back in the game 2 days later. Shane Matthews told me the same thing. But Dr. Delicato says it depends upon whether they stitched the ligament or whether they snipped it or they did. and the pain tolerance has nothing to do with when he comes back. So you get the sense seeing him out there in full gear, and we ran the program the way he's talking. He's not going to miss anything, and we'll be there for Shane Matthews. Willing to bet me $1 million he'll be playing in the in Miami game. You think so?
I mean, I think he'll want to. Sometimes, you got to step in. I just don't know the extent of it, man. I mean, that's 20. Yeah. It's 20. What are we looking at? 24 days, and these guys heal fast.
Yeah.
Just you got to be sure, and they're going to be already deep into prep at this point in 3 weeks from today. I mean, you're going to be like really kind of wrapping up the most intense part of your prep for Miami.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty tight window.
Well, you've been in practice, and Allie and I haven't, and David Moulton will join us shortly, has not. Just reading reports, listening to pressers. Give us your sense. We're talking about, I will say the wind has changed, but we're hearing conversations and perspectives from people that kind of surprised us. I don't know if you guys saw the one CBS poll that ranked the 16 teams that have a chance to win a national championship. Florida was ranked number 11. I couldn't believe that. And then there's another one that came out that ranked Florida. Talked to Urban Meyer the other day. Urban said, I guess Florida's glory days are long gone. And what you and Spurrier did will never be recreated. So I don't agree with you. So I think they can bring it back one day. That's really okay. And meanwhile, Allie had Chris Storing on. Chris, I wouldn't say he was Debbie Downer, but last year he wouldn't come off of 5 wins. And Allie, he told you he sees 6, 7, 8 wins this year for this team. What is happening? What are we hearing?
Mark Long thinks they're going to go 8-4. That's all I got. That's knocked me off my chair the other day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I said I'm sipping the Kool-Aid gently. That's my expression. I mean, I'm, feeling it a little. I'm seeing a difference. The guys just look terrific. I mean, Tyler Miles with, help. I mean, Jake Sankel's nutrition program. Ackerman, is that the guy who used to work for Boom and then he was in the NFL for years? Ackerman? Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
Yeah.
They're really, the gains are unbelievable. I mean, Shamar James is a pound lighter, and I mean, his legs are he looks like a fullback. These guys are all just put together right now. The numbers are astounding. They've gone from 15 guys cleaning 300 pounds to 45.
Which is
average. Yeah, Graham Mertz is cleaning 315, the quarterback. You got squats going from 450 average to 525. You have 2 guys running 23 miles an hour, Mizell and Hawkins. You have 15, 22 plus. That includes Jason Marshall, who has always been knocked for being maybe a teeny bit slow. He says they got a bunch of guys 330 plus clocking in under 19 miles an hour, which is faster than I probably ever ran. So, I mean, they're really training hard. They look the part, as Mark loves to use that expression. We'll see. I mean, this is the year, and it's been said on here a million times. I'm sure we've said it a bunch. We're going to find out about Billy finally this year, fairly. Finally and fairly, I think we're going to find out about Billy, whether he can put the staff, put the roster, and coach it. Mm-hmm. I do think it's going to be a fair assessment. It might not be the final assessment, but it's going to be a fair assessment of what Billy Napier can do at this level as a head coach.
All right, Edgar, we're going to just squeeze everything we can out of you. And we've got David Moulton standing by in the orange and blue room. But Buck Wade says, I'd love to hear Edgar's opinion on the D-line if he's been watching the defense.
Well, we get such a limited viewing of this thing. And we need to talk special teams for Allie. I was looking up, I wrote about Joe Houston the other day. He's a really nice guy. And I was looking some stuff up. Urban Meyer, 06 through 09, they blocked 23 kicks and ran back 5 returns. They had 9 blocks a year. They won the first national title and 8 the other year. But Eric Wilbur in 2006 had 22 punts inside the 20-yard line, which is the highest, the most I've seen. I mean, I looked at the year. I mean, it's the most since then.
Yeah. Well, you know what's wild too is that was when Urban was big on the rugby punt, which is when that kind of got instituted. So
right.
The rugby punt is incredibly effective. It's not great for punters' stats. So it is interesting that that's the case because rugby kind of it's a strategy position. It's definitely not a stats type of punting. So that is interesting, but I'm excited for special teams. You know, a lot was made last week when Joe Houston was on the podium and he said, we're going to use a mat with 11 spots. And I saw social media kind of go nuts.
Twister mat, one of the twister mats, remember?
Yeah.
That's common, right? Like I mentioned it to Eric and he was like, they weren't using that? Are you kidding? Like that, that is not like we're going back to remedial math class. That is a standard special teams thing. I'm kind of bummed we didn't have it to begin with, but that's great. We're back to basics. We need that. And we've talked ad nauseum about Napier maybe not owning special teams the way he should have, but he did by hiring Joe Houston. So he might not have said to all of us, look, our special teams weren't good enough, but he did say that by going out and getting Houston. So I'm excited to see what kind of changes they've made there because it's a third of the game, right? There are 2 games we can look at on our schedule that we probably win if we play better special teams. It does matter, particularly if you're not going to have a huge high-flying offense or an incredibly stout defense. You need those special teams.
I knew we'd get Allie going with that.
I know,
right? But no, so the defensive line, I mean, Caleb Banks, I'm having a brain lock here. Banks, it's Caleb Banks, right? Yeah. Caleb Banks the other day, I was like, all these guys look massive to me. I weigh 170 pounds on a good day, but I'm standing there just looking at this kid. He has got some serious stature and he's like 323 pounds and like not carrying much fat on him at all. And I'm looking at him and asked Billy about him. He's like, this guy played 58 snaps 2 years ago at Louisville. Last year, he didn't, he was just so new to him. He was in over his head the whole season. And that's just an example of a guy, as Boom used to like to always say, this is a developmental game. He said that all the time, Will Muschamp. And it's true. And it's easy to like look at a guy, he's not that great. Well, okay, he wasn't great last year, but he was still like really green behind the ear, wet behind the ears. And he's a guy I'm looking at who a lot of people aren't talking about that really could be a force. He looks like it. Cam Jackson is down from 374 to 342. He got really heavy last year. He looked out of shape to me. And he clearly was. He's down 32 pounds, and he still needs to get down some more. It sounds like they'd like him at about 330. You got guys like Kelby Collins moving inside. I'm a big Kelby Collins guy. Yeah. Whether he has the size, he's certainly got the quickness and strength, but we'll see. But on the edges, Napier is very high on the depth on the edges.
The edge rushers are supposed to be really good, according to Lauren Meadows.
Well, yeah, but they just like the depth. You got options finally. It's not like if Princey can't do it, no one can kind of thing. Justice Boone getting hurt last year hurt, but you got Boone, you got Sapp, you got TJ Searcy on the other side, this George Gums guy. A lot of people are talking about. Cam James is a guy who I think looks like he could be a real disruptor. 6'5.5", 260 something. Watched him. He's an Orlando kid. He really can move well. And I'm leaving names off. There's just a lot of
options. The whole roster. We're just going to get an idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth. There's competition. That's one thing I'll end on. David came in. I see. There's competition. There really hasn't been a lot of that. It's been like playing really young guys or just like over-reliance on maybe a guy. And now Billy said today there are only a few positions that are decided right now. We know a few, obviously, Trey Wilson, Graham Mertz, Jake Slaughter, a few others, Barber probably, and a few on defense, Marshall and all that, but more probably. But it's Shamar, but there's a lot of competition for these other spots, and that's healthy, and you need that.
You need that depth come mid-season when inevitably there are people that are banged up.
Yeah, I want to bring David in this discussion and talk about a couple of things. But there's so much information we don't get, and you get some, Edgar. You're about as good as there is being a vacuum cleaner out there, and just the sense of things that we're hearing about. Except for Montreal, no major injuries apparently, and it appears that they feel like they know what they're doing. They have a sense of purpose and direction. At least that's what it looks like from the outside. Edgar, is that how it looks on the inside?
Well, I mean, he's very high on the leadership and just the accountability and all this culture stuff. You're like, does it really matter? Does it translate to wins? I mean, I kind of think it can. I mean, accountability is important. You know, in football, I mean, you don't want, you don't want to let your guys down, man. And you commit penalties or whatever. If you got depth, you can replace a guy too. So you got accountability, you got the ability to replace guys. But he's talked ad nauseum about leadership, about culture, about the clean locker room, about the way that workers, food servers, people are just complimenting Billy on the way the team just conducts itself. So, Billy's good for these kids. Yeah. Whether he's the right coach at the SEC level, we're going to find out, but he's good for these young men. I think that's pretty clear.
Let's say good evening to David Moulton. I know we're going to keep Edgar for a few more minutes. He's got to go do some work. Appreciate you coming on, Edgar. Updating us. David, welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Have you back, brother?
Been caretaking for my wife.
Yeah.
So she's doing a bit better. So it's nice to be back.
I was going to ask you about that. I thought about you because I took mine to the hospital today. She's okay. But I thought, well, this is what David's dealing with. So everybody doing well. Just say hello to Edgar. Talk some ball for a second here. And just from your perspective, David, because you're like me, we're kind of on the outer edges looking in. What are you hearing on your show? And Moulton and Miller in the morning, and what do you feel any different about the team than you did 2 months ago?
Well, I think just reiterate a little about what Allie and Edgar have been saying in this sense. I do, in talking about the depth, and this is just a stat and take it for what it's worth. But, Florida is one of the 15 or 16 teams in the country that qualifies under the blue chip index that has enough talent to win the national title. I mean, 52% of their roster is 4 or 5-star players. Yeah. And, now it's young. It's unproven in a lot of spots. We all know how brutal the schedule is. I think you combine the fact that Billy now finally is getting the talent. It's starting to get to where it needs to be. I think we all think a year from now we'll really like this roster a bit more and the schedule won't be as brutal. And Edgar, what you're talking about in terms of culture, I think it's a word that's overused a lot, but I think, and Allie has talked about this a lot, if this year is as challenging as it could be because of the schedule, the culture could be more important than ever. They're gonna suffer some tough losses. For the first time, I think they could play well under Napier and lose. Other times they've lost, the other teams have just had more talent or they've screwed it up. This could be the first year where Buddy brings the three of us on and we go, I got to tell you, Gators played a B+ game. They just, they got beat by a good team. I mean, when your schedule is 8 teams in the preseason top 20, there's a pretty good chance you're going to play a couple of pretty darn good games and lose.
Yeah. But that's okay. I think Gator fans are going to be okay. Florida's not running the table. We know that. Right. But each and every loss that they take is one where they showed up and they performed, and the team that they played is literally just better. That is different than what happened against Arkansas or against Missouri, or even throw in Utah or, Florida State in there for those things. That's the frustrating part. But, we do talk a lot about culture, and Edgar, you talked about depth. And I think one of the things that depth also provides you is the ability to kind of lay into the guys that mess up, right? Florida all season last year had inexplicable, unexplainable penalties throughout the entire season. Too many men on the field, not enough men on the field, special teams errors. But if you don't have the depth to be able to pull that guy and sit him because of that mistake, it's very hard to correct it, right? And now Florida has the depth that that's possible. So if you do the wrong thing or you don't get on the field with when you're supposed to, your butt can sit on the bench and that's fine. They haven't had that luxury until this season.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that when I was on my rambling thing that, you can hold guys accountable now because you have, and I think they'll hold each other accountable too. And the other thing is it's kind of a healthy competition. Mark was talking about, I wouldn't even try to pronounce the guy's name, who was the Jacksonville defensive end, Yannick or whatever, but his last name's impossible. But he and Dante Fowler didn't even talk to each other. They couldn't even be in the same room with each other. Meanwhile, Tyreek Sapp and Justice Boone are taking road trips and meeting each other's families. So that's pretty healthy. Yeah. And when you're cheering for the guy who's in there when you want to be in or think you should be in, maybe. So there's some kind of cool stuff going on like that. Again, I mean, it's all, it's talking season. All this stuff sounds great and culture and all that. It's really what happens on the field 12 Saturdays. And we're going to see if that stuff translates. But they are more talented. They are deeper. They still have areas where they need some guys to, rise to the occasion. I mean, who's going to help, for example, keep the flies off Eugene Wilson? People are going to be keying on him defensively. It means, DK. It means Boardingham. It means Badger. It means Burke. Burke's a guy who could finally establish something. I mean, the guy certainly has all the prototypical skills and size to contribute. I think Mizell's a kid I'm very intrigued by. So if they can get some of these other guys going, get some playmakers going, but that's going to have to happen. And you're going to need, you're going to need more off the edge. I mean, okay, you have 8 guys, whatever. There's going to have to be a couple that really step up and do something. They had 22 sacks last year and 3 interceptions. So there's just a lot of areas they got to just keep improving at. And special teams, I mean, it should be a lot better, but they got to do it. And they have like this Badger kid at kickoff. They got Wilson at punt return. I mean, that's explosive. They talk about Jamarcus Weston being an NFL level gunner. You got 2 great you had a great punter and a very good kicker. So they should be better there. But again, say it again, you got to do it.
I feel as if the Gators are like a year behind schedule, if you think about it. Usually by year 3, the successful coaches are a little more established than Billy is right now. But we know that Florida, if we're going to go back, if Florida was starting from behind, the roster was worse than the record. Okay, the NIL situation was a disaster. And that's just for Florida, never mind in comparison with who they were competing with. So I think, like Napier's getting compared a lot to Norvell and Florida State. In Norvell's year 3, Florida State A had a much easier schedule than what Billy's going to have this year. And also, they had hit the portal harder. They had their NIL situation ready to go. They had a tremendous offseason that year with guys who could come in and not just upgrade the depth and add talent, but who could come in and contribute. And that's why year 3, he could have a 10-win season, which then springboarded to last year. I just feel as if it's why I would double down on Napier if I was Strickland. My job's on the line anyway with him. I would give him an extension. I would say he's the guy. This year is going to be hard. We may have a good record. We may not have a good record, but I am telling you, and I will put my job on the line, he is the man. He is doing it the right way. And believe it or not, we're a lot closer than the last 3 years shows. And I would double down on Napier, push all my chips in, and wait until the end of the 2025 season and see where we're at. I just feel as if Florida's, Scott needed to do something about this schedule. This is not a schedule that you should have for a coach who's trying to establish a program in year 3. It's ridiculous, actually. I hold Strickland more responsible for the state of affairs than I do Napier in that sense. This schedule's a joke. We were talking about this over a year ago, that he needed to buy out of some of these games or move them. Just move them down the road. Give Billy a chance this year. I mean, people who've covered college football for a living is saying this is the hardest schedule they've ever seen. And we're going to hold a guys in the future of the program for playing the hardest schedule ever?
Don't you think they will take that into consideration when judging him, though?
I think you should. I agree you should get to 2025, but I've not heard anyone. I mean, I literally almost fell over. Say that he should get an extension.
Well, it could be one of those dummy. But Edgar, it could be one of those dummy extensions too.
Yeah, extensions don't mean anything.
Okay, but I would give the appearance that we're all in on this guy. Okay, because what happens if all of a sudden it's another 6-6 season? I don't want Billy in the program to be losing kids on the trail because of the 1-loss record.
Because that's what he said right now on the trail. 100% they're going to say, are you really going to commit to Florida? Because the coach you're committing to won't be there in a year.
Exactly.
So if Florida starts out 5-1, 6 games into the season, they come out and say, hey, we're giving them a 2-year contract extension. That quiets those coaches. We know anybody can be fired at any given moment for anything.
They better not change. They better alter the buyout and keep it what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't add to that buyout.
No.
Yeah, don't add to the buyout.
But
it takes away that talking point on the trail, because that's the other portion of this. Napier was brought in to recruit. His 2025 class is nothing impressive, right? I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not what we brought in thinking we were bringing in Billy Napier, the recruiting guru. But you can understand where high school kids are in a wait and see mode. Mm-hmm. So if they come out strong, they win 5 or 6 games, the second half of the season is so much harder than the first. There's no way they're walking out of the second half of the season 5-1. So strike when the iron's hot the first half of the season, and these players are excited at the product that's on the field. Say Billy's going to be there, rack up some of these commitments before you head into, the gauntlet, essentially.
I'd make a comment here. First, let me also say thanks to our sponsor, TitanMRI.com. If you need a MRI, you're in the old Gainesville area, check them out, because they will custom make an appointment for you. They will assure you they will have a good experience there. And not easy to get an MRI of any kind. And certainly you don't want to take your valuable business time or away. They'll custom make an appointment for you, nights, weekends, whatever it may do, and they will make your experience a better one, I guarantee you. TitanMRI.com. 2 things, Edgar. You talked about how good on the hoof some of these players look. I mean, I think that's something. We can't just throw it out the window. This is a better physical team. Al, you talked about how last year Billy Natsko and some of the players said we're too weak physically, we're not strong enough. Remember, Steve Spurrier got hammered by Nebraska. What did he do? He hired a new strength physician, came back and won a national championship.
You got Rob Glass, right?
Yeah, right. He did. So my point is that they look better on the hoof. Now they got to play better. I think they got a better coaching staff. Their defenses seem to be in good hands. I kind of understand the creeper defense. Sounds a lot like what Nebraska did to Spurrier with his own blitz. But anyway, the point is that they seem to believe in it. I'm not painting a rosy picture, but here's the thing, and you're right about the schedule, David. I don't disagree with you on the idea of going ahead and giving him an extension. They've got to value it differently. They said they're going to take into consideration the strength of schedule. All right. Well, let's see it. I mean, if Missouri's 9-3 with a crappy schedule they got, and Florida is 7-5 and played the toughest schedule of all time, how do you equate the two? The committee's got to value that, or they're just a bunch of hypocrites. So they look better on the hoof. They've got to only be one of 12 teams to get there, and an 8-4 could get them there. So I know I'm spending
No,
it optimistically.
no.
I'm not saying they're going to win 8.
No, buddy.
Hold on, I just say you're going to win 8.
It's until we see somebody with more than 2 losses get in this 12 or 14 team playoff. I mean, I think let's see if a 9-3 or a 10-3 team makes it first before we start thinking if an 8-4 team's
Then
gonna
why do we
make
have
it.
a strength schedule then? Why even bother having one?
Well, but it's more along the lines of think about where Florida is in the SEC pecking order. I mean,
I agree with that. You can't take 7 SEC teams and 8 and 4.
right. I mean, think about it this way. Just do the quick math. There's 12 spots, obviously. 1 for the ACC, 1 for the Big 12, 1 for Notre Dame, if they're good enough. And this year they're expected to be, and 1 for the group of 5. That's 4. All right. That leaves 8 spots left. Well, the SEC and the Big 10 are arguing they both should deserve 4. There's your 8. If by chance the committee thinks that one of the other conferences should get a second team, there's only 7 spots left between the SEC and the Big 10. So one gets 4, one gets 3.
You're getting ahead of me, David.
No.
Wait. No, you are, because I'm talking about listen to me. I'm talking about the meetings they have when they put that group together and they rank these teams. Either they're going to value stricter schedule or they're not. Does that mean Florida's going to be in? No, it doesn't. It just means there should be consideration for playing that kind of schedule.
9-3, maybe. 9-3.
Whatever. I mean, we don't know the answer to that. We don't know.
SEC teams are getting in. SEC is getting consideration for strength of schedule. You know, if almost everybody else is getting 1, they are getting. It doesn't mean it puts Florida in at 8-4, but they are getting consideration for playing in the toughest 2 conferences.
Well, let's see how Florida looks against Miami.
Why does everybody think that's Armageddon?
Before we start, extrapolating these records, but I don't know, man. I mean, this team. I mean, back to David for a minute. I agree on Billy getting 2 years because this team is still got a lot of youth and it's got a lot of potential. And I don't know that's going to realize all of it this year. And you really want to potentially take a chance losing Lagway. I mean, I don't even know if Lagway's be good or not.
You can't. You
put a lot of chips in on Lagway already.
You sure did. Your whole team.
And you gotta be able to at least see 2 years out of this kid.
I agree.
Say goodbye to the coach. Yeah. It would have to be literally Arkansas, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt 2022, week after week after week to get rid of Billy, in my opinion.
Yeah. So what is that going to be? Is that going to be a 3-9? What people keep asking me for numbers, I can't give them to them. Depends on who they play, how well they play.
I think, unfortunately, if they don't go to a bowl, I don't think Billy will survive.
They got to have a winning record at the end of the year.
They have to be playing in December or early January game. They have to. I do not see, and I know people are saying he's got 4 years left on his contract. Why an extension? I just think, first off, I'm calling for a dummy extension. Now, the buyout remains the same, but I'm saying that I think he and the program needs the proverbial vote of confidence to A, try to back some of the boosters off, but also B, the trail. Okay. And also you want it so that in November, when kids are already planning to transfer and who they're considering, they make these decisions very quickly. Okay. You don't want the word that, you don't know about Billy, he might get fired after the Florida State game. Well, then nobody's going to consider going to Florida then. No. You want it so that everybody knows, hey man, Napier's here for at least 2 more years. I mean, so if you want to go. And besides, if you go next year, you'll play with Lagway.
Yeah.
All right. One final question on football. I want to ask you an Olympics question. If you're watching, what you value, what it tells you about programs like Florida. But before we do that,
amazing.
Before we do that, final question. I've argued with Shane about this now for 2 months. I have said that Lagway's got to have a package of some kind. And Shane says, no, he doesn't. Just don't worry about him right now. I said, well, you got to bring him along. And so you got to give him some encouragement. And he says, no, he doesn't. And he'll never do that. Well, but Billy said something about he's going to have some plays for Lagway. How important is it to get him some exposure?
Who wants to go?
I don't think it's as important as everybody thinks it is. I think obviously we would like him to get some experience. Hopefully he'll have the opportunity in some mop-up games to do that. I do think that there will be a package that exists for him, but I think this is Graham Mertz. His everything that I've heard out of practice is that Graham Mertz is so much more in control, which he should be. He is a super senior at this point, right? Lagway is very, very young. I don't think that they're that concerned about Lagway at this moment. They want Graham Mertz to run the show, and Lagway will be ready when he's ready.
I hope he only plays 2 quarters this year, the second half against Sanford. That's it. And literally, Mertz takes them in the locker room. They're up 30-something, and you hand the ball off, kid. The second half's yours. And honestly, I hope it's the only time he sees the field.
Yeah, he definitely needs to play a lot against Sanford. I was going to say that. The thing, I think, the comparisons, Tebow, Leak. Tebow factored in 2 games that year, Tennessee in those short yardage situations, and LSU with that incredible rocker step call. That's still one of the best play calls I've ever seen. And, he had the jump pass, which was kind of goofy. And, it was obviously people play over and over and over. But he factored in 2 games. If Lagway can do a couple things here and there, I think it's actually kind of smart if you use him like that. He's got tremendous size, power, running ability. He could have, you could sell them that he's running and do like a rocker step thing in some game. I don't see any problem with playing the kid and using him a little bit and keeping him engaged that way. And also keeping defenses off balance and a little change of pace for Mertz. If you can do that, Dan Mullen was a brilliant offensive mind. He got stuff out of Tebow. Tebow looked terrible in the spring that year. Oh, he looked awful. And Lagway didn't have a great spring. He looked pretty good in spring game with a few plays. I mean, he looks, we see very little in practice. He can throw a nice deep ball. I don't see, I think it'd be great to deploy him occasionally to keep a defense off balance. You definitely don't want to be handing the keys.
Where were you in 06?
Where was that? That was the last year I covered him before leaving for 6 seasons, NFL and things.
What I remember is going to the stadium early on. There was a buzz and excitement about the crowd with Tebow I've never heard before. The anticipation of him coming to the game was really magical, in my opinion. I've never seen that before or since. So I think that's a factor. Lagway won't have that same factor. All right, enough of that. We got limited time. What's been the best story you've seen, and what has excited you the most about any Florida athletes you've seen this year in the Olympics? Allie, you go first.
I've had a really great time watching swimming. There is several Florida Gators that have done incredibly well. Caleb Dressel is obviously, huge. I have loved watching Elizabeth Beisel on the broadcast team for it. Obviously, Katie Ledecky is not a real Gator, but she's an honorary Gator for sure. And listening to her talk about and thank the Gators that she trains with every day when she is, doing an interview about her medals. I thought that was so neat. The emotion in that was so real. And Florida has an incredible swimming program. And even Michael Phelps at one point, was asked about it. And he said, they're doing it right down there in Gainesville. It's amazing that Katie has gotten this training group down there, had wonderful positive things. Watching Anthony Nesty on the sidelines, just him getting teared up when his swimmers were successful was very cool to see.
Yeah. And by the way, I thought it was pretty cool that she said, shout out to my boys down in Florida that I've been working out with. That was cool too. David, what'd you think?
I'm a track guy. First off, I was inspired watching the Gators win another national title this year in track. I watched it coming from behind, winning that last relay to win the title by a point. There are certain coaches that win all the time and somehow I don't think get enough credit. I mean, the Florida, men's and women's, but particularly the men's track and field program, indoor and outdoor. I mean, my goodness, it's awesome. And I love I love the track and field. I really do. It stops me in my tracks, and I wish the announcers wouldn't even talk during the track of the field. The roar of the crowd, 80,000 strong when sprinters round the turn and head for home. I mean, it gives me goosebumps.
What'd you think of the wrong call on the 100?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
No.
I felt for him, but he thought he had it right.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he didn't.
Yeah, that's what they used to say about Bill Stern. He said he was fine. He said, the problem he had when he called the horse race, you couldn't hand off a horse. That was I was lying about him being wrong. Edgar, a lot of buzz about the Gator that got away, and who's now the new sprint wonder at Florida at the Olympics. Tell us who he is and what he did and how.
Who, Noah Lyles?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Gainesville kid, but I think he grew up in.
He was committed to Florida before he went pro.
He got away. My question is, well, so we went pro. Is that what it was?
Yeah, pro. So we count him. He's a Gator.
Well, so Bobby Fink, Allie referenced swimming. I mean, he came through big time. Final event was a 1500 freestyle. Chance to keep the U.S. streak of 120 years with at least one individual gold medal behind him. He goes out and sets a world record by 0.3. That was Studley.
That was very cool.
My favorite Gator athlete, or not favorite, but among the favorites since I've come back to Gainesville, which got going on 12 years now, incredibly, is Grant Holloway. He's got incredible personality. He's personable. He's a good kid. I see him out and about. He'll hug me. I mean, he almost breaks me in half. He's a good dude. He loves golf. Needs work on the golf game, but I was trying to help him one day. But he's just a good dude, and he is determined to win gold. He was upset last time and for the silver by 0.05. He at the U.S. trials ran 3 sub-13s, which is insane, unprecedented. No one's ever done it, and he is the guy to beat. And he runs tomorrow to win his gold medal, much deserved gold medal. I mean, he's one of the best athletes on earth. I mean, when you think about running 110 meters at under 13 seconds, you can count on one hand and don't need all your fingers how many people on earth can even do that. 13 seconds with no hurdles. And then these hurdles like 3.5 feet tall, and he just blows through it like it's nothing. And I mean, there's no guarantees in that because anything can happen. You can trip anytime, but I'd be stunned if he doesn't win the gold tomorrow.
Well, here's the deal. There ought to be some kind of statue of Mouse Holloway in Gainesville.
Oh, he's incredible.
Unbelievable.
14 national titles, is tied for 11th all time. He gets the benefit of indoor, outdoor, but number 10 is Dan Gable with 15. That's one. So that's pretty impressive company. If he'll be in the top 10 before he retires for sure.
Yeah, sure. He needs to be a mouse. Needs to be a little bitty statue of a mouse somewhere.
Oh, that's cute.
Anyway, guys, great stuff tonight. Really being
all
with
right,
David. Welcome back, David, and also Allie and Edgar. Nice to have you back on the show again.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for having me. We'll do it again soon.
That'd be great, guys. Thank you.
Need better lighting.
We'll go see Allie. She knows how to do all that.
Yeah, her lighting's good.
Yeah, it's called lighting in front of your face as opposed to back of your face.
Yeah. Bad move.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.
You
Thanks,
could
bye.
do that. Here, I want to say a few. All right, guys. Thank you, Edgar. Thanks, David. Glad you're back, and hope your wife's better.
Thank you.
Always good to see you. You guys have a good one. All right.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Next week, hopefully. Good to see you. All right. Our team tonight was very strong. It was an excellent night and good stuff. I hope you enjoyed that. Boy, you don't get that stuff every way. And we are very glad to have our team back, sweet and sour and whatever. And Edgar is a hardworking guy, I got to tell you. He brings it, and he puts a lot of time in on it. That's why he gets a lot of scoops. All right, so let me just say thank you, Travis, for the comments. Appreciate that. And I want to end up by telling you how much I appreciate, first of all, our listeners, secondly, our guests. I always like to say the Buddy Martin Show, great guests and mediocre host. But we have some terrific ones, and guys like Robert and Buck and shout out to David Aronoff for his help today on a medical issue. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Lucky Chucky, good to have you on. It's just wonderful to see the new people. We have a great team of people here. The GNKers, thanks Travis Thiessen for the comment, and all of you. And thanks to our sponsors. And I mentioned my friends over at Moulton Law, and of course, Titan MRI, but these people are very special. And that is the people that we talk about all the time right here in Ocala, that we're here for you to improve your health. How many people are truly interested in your health besides you, right? Well, we have them here, and we talk about this group every night. If you could help out other people by joining a group to have a clinical trial, would you do it if you could help your community? Yeah, I think you would. And we want you to know there are people here who do that for you. And I want you to know that I appreciate their participation in this program, and then also in the health community as a stakeholder. And so if you would be kind enough, go to Renstar Medical Research and look it up. They have these clinical trials for you and for I to find out more about our health, so they can then apply them to the data they send off to these other biomedical groups. They do a terrific job. And that will tell them more about what our health is like and what treatments we could have here. And it's so important. It's free. If you qualify, you could be compensated for your time and travel. It's painless and something you can do for yourself and for the community. So check them out. Go over there tonight and to Renstar Medical Research and see what clinical trials they have, and let them know you're interested. They'll be glad to fix you up. My friends over there are such great people. Joe Sorrentino, been a friend for a long time. He, of course, is the father of Joey, the former defensive back, and Scott Radley's wife, Mary, who's an absolute angel. They were founders of this group. They do a great job at Renstar. I just want you to know how much I appreciate them. Appreciate you, and thank you for listening and watching tonight. We have great shows planned for you here. We've had a great show tonight, and we'll have more to come. And shout out to Franz Beard. People have been asking me, how's Franz? I haven't talked to him tonight, but last night he was feeling good about everything. He had some kind of procedure. I'm not sure what, but he wasn't concerned about it, and he's doing okay. So he'll be back tomorrow, and we'll have him on the show on Thursday night. So thank you for listening. Thanks for watching, folks. I'm Buddy Martin. Good night.